Yeah.
Well, they had a contract with a Signo's Traffic Company, which is a forerunner of this traffic company back here. And they were building big presses, all over the country. And
So everybody's calling
they
you
hired
for.
Tom Walsh, one day, and another guy, he was out of University of Virginia, electronic engineering.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went down for an interview, and it says electronics, and I went, I told the boss, I said, I don't think this is electronics. So I said, in fact, I know it's not. He said, it's not? He said, well, what's this stuff? I said, well, that's motor relays, to start up, your pumping stuff. This limit switches, which holds us in west,
Got me a couple weeks ago.
Well, he said, I don't care if it's electronic, not you're hired. Now then, he said, let's get an engineer. Engineer comes down.
Huh? Maybe we ought to start putting little post-its up
Okay,
here.
it's 5:30, we're ready to get started. Sure.
Oh, we're fine. Okay.
I wanted to go over briefly, the delinquent is right there. If anyone wants to pass that around, it'll be submitted to the next council meeting. For anyone who wants to take a look at it. Major fund reports, I went ahead and made copies and highlighted the areas that our major funds are in, so you can, pertain to water and wastewater, highlight the water and wastewater. I guess we'll go ahead and get started with wastewater first. Generator repair, we have been working on generator issues involving Ramp Creek, James Parkway, Holly, Port Authority. Most common problem is automatic running of the generators for routine exercise, then reporting it to SCADA so that we know that they're running. We've had some difficulties with a few of these lift stations not reporting in. We're in the process of evaluating that and solving that problem. Correct me? Next was actually working on it today. I was out there at Ramp Creek today, and the guys were doing some work on that today. Motor repair. Currently rebuilding motors for multi-stage blowers on aeration process. Rebuild cost is $3,600 on the motor. A new motor is $8,200, so we will be rebuilding.
Hey, John, on that delinquent account, it doesn't have the amounts. Usually it says the amounts. It doesn't have the amounts on it, so you might want to.
Yeah, I just grabbed that. It was in my box, so.
Before you get it to Lynn, you might want to.
You're late.
Make sure.
Yeah.
We're not gonna tell you by how much, but you're late.
You're late. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't
Attach
catch
this
that.
to the auditor's
Usually-
slip.
Usually puts that on there. but
Yeah, probably just forgot to
I'll talk
turn
to
it on.
Denise and find out why she didn't. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, motor repair, we're building the multi-stage blower on the air condition, the motor on that. We got a cost to rebuild the motor. It's $3,600 to rebuild it. A new motor is $8,200, so we're gonna be rebuilding the motor. Also replacing a blower motor on the digester blower at a cost of $2,400. So we will purchase a new motor for that because there was no savings in rebuilding it.
How old are these motors?
Old. Some of them are very old. I don't know. I mean, I can't give you the exact.
Oh, roughly
dates
20
on it,
years
but
old,
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, they're over 10, 15 years old.
Yeah, on the digesters, we have 5 of them. And I think in the 10 years I've been there, we've replaced 2. This would be the 3rd one.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not a common thing.
Most rebuilt motors will outlast your new ones too, don't they?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Mixing pump on the dry submersible. Mixing pump, the guys, I was down there again today and they were pulling the dry submersible pump. We've had some issues with that. Some of that may be under warranty. We're pulling that, bringing it in and having to take a look at it. It's been running hot. So they're gonna go through it, see just what exactly the problem is with that. That is not that old. So it's been about 3 years.
Yeah.
That works out. NPDES permit update. You know, we're in the middle of doing our NPDES permit through the Ohio EPA.
That acronym stands for?
National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System.
Thank you.
The NPDES permit is close to being submitted, and NPDES, I'm gonna kind of go through what's involved. Permit sets limits on the type and quantity of pollutants that can be discharged to the Licking River, South Fork of the Licking River. It also includes other requirements necessary to protect the human health and the environment. Ohio EPA issues a new permit or a renewal permit in a draft form for a 30-day comment period. Then a proposed permit modification also has 30-day comment period. The agency places a public notice in the local newspaper to inform citizens of this preliminary staff recommendation. The recommendation will go into the paper. After considering all written and oral comments, making any changes to the permit that are appropriate, the agency staff make a final recommendation to the director of the Ohio EPA. The director may issue a final permit, which is normally what happens, issue a final permit modification, deny a final permit, deny permit modification, or request additional information from the applicant. That takes place every 5 years, and we are well into that, getting ready to submit that to the Ohio EPA. The other part of that that's being done too, through our CADIS, is we are upgrading the plant without an actual upgrade. We feel, engineers, ourselves, plant staff, and everybody feels that we have the ability of treating more volume than what the EPA gives us credit for. So I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10:30 on that for an update on how that's progressing. What you have to do is you have to hire an engineering firm. They go through each process, they evaluate it, submit that to the EPA, and the EPA comes back and says yay or nay, whether we can actually upgrade, have industry coming into the area. We can tell them that we can treat. We have so much excess waste to treat. So what it does is it opens up more avenues for manufacturing to come into the area, especially high users of water in this one.
What's the acronym for that? Wait, what's that?
NPDES, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System.
Right?
Yeah. We've always been that.
We continue to stay.
Continue to stay. So, I guess I will ask if anyone has any questions on anything that I've discussed so far.
You meant the permit application.
Applications. Yeah. We're getting close to submitting that.
Do they publish application?
I don't know about a notice of application, but they publish, after it's been evaluated, they publish that in the paper to see if there's any comments on limits. Like you, which is being a concerned citizen, if you'd say the mercury limit for the city should be more stringent than that, then you would notify the EPA.
Different states do that.
Any other questions? I want to talk about something. Go to our last item on wastewater, Keller Drive Sewer Project. We recently had a meeting, the mayor and myself and Eddie Hunt and Rick, I believe. There has been some interest on the vacant ground on the Keller Drive area. And what we're trying to do is, we had talked about providing sewage to the Keller Drive industrial manufacturing area since 1993. This project has been engineered since 1993 by Joe G. Henderson. We are now showing some interest in the Keller Drive area with possible manufacturing moving into that area. Bay Drive is serviced by Zurich, the city of Heath, and potential manufacturing could look to boring a railroad connecting to the Newark sewer that is in the city of Heath. My recommendation is to provide city of Heath sewer to that area, maintain the identity of the city of Heath to sustain growth to the west of Heath.
Have we talked about this before?
We We might, I don't know that we actually talked about running a sewer to it. It has been talked about when, they were going to put a bike path in through there. We talked about, running a bike path. But anyway, to kind of give everybody an idea, these are the plans that have been finished and completed, since, when did I say?
93. Are they still
They're
up to
they're
date?
still good. They're good, up to date, except where we might want to cross over Irvingwick West. We might want to cross over on the east side initially, and then end up on the west side.
The reason for that would be,
Because I know when they did the bike path, there was some issues with easements in that area. And I know that the person on the corner of Irvingwick West and Keller Drive, the north east corner, has shown an interest in sewer in that vacant land. So everything's been drawn out. I talked to Jim Roberts just not too long ago, actually. And he said everything looks good other than what I just mentioned to you, that initial crossing.
so all this property is the west side of Keller Drive, essentially, between west of Keller and east of Thornwood,
This
right?
kind of shows a little better if everyone wants to kind of just step up and take a look at what we're looking at here. This is Keller Drive, right here. This is Irvingwood, Keller. This is Fay, in the city of Heath. This, wait a minute, this is Fay, Fay in the city of Heath, I'm sorry. This is the railroad track.
This is one north here.
This is going north. There's a 16-inch sewer main that runs down the middle of Fay Drive, right? It stops right here. That's the city of Norris, which basically means the development that takes place on this piece of ground will be serviced by North. What I'm trying to do is to make it so that our manufacturing, which is what's this zone, is still serviced by the city of Heath. Anything on this side of the railroad track will continue to be serviced by the city of Heath. My concern is the gentleman who's wanting to develop ground in this area is wanting to tap onto Newark or here,
Why is
whichever
that?
way. Because it's there.
It's there. It's close.
Our intention is to run sewer from here to here and stop right here, out in the middle.
Yep.
And then this gentleman here said he would be more than willing to do what it takes to run to this area.
Anderson Lane is still in there, right?
That's correct.
Maybe all gravity streets?
It would be all gravity from here to the railroad track, right? There's a railroad track right here.
Thank you. Housing development here?
This is
No,
open ground.
It's open ground.
Nothing there, cornfield.
It's open, cornfield.
It's zone manufacturing.
Oh, okay.
We want to continue to service this area here for manufacturing because when you service an industrial area, it helps bring down the cost of water and sewer to your residential areas. So you don't want to give this up, and you don't want to allow them to cross the railroad. If they cross the railroad, first thing I anticipate is going to happen is the dog pound right here that's on the septic system.
Yeah.
They're going to want to connect to the sewer. Then this manufacturing place on Holly Lane, they're going to want to attach to Dark City, and then it's going to continue to progress.
And our long-term land use and thoroughfare plan would be in conjunction with that as well.
Right.
Which
And this is your this is your thoroughfare plan on what you have scheduled to develop in certain areas. Okay. This is Thornwood Drive. This is Keller. And you have that slated for manufacturing in this area. This is slated for manufacturing for the city of Heath. This is the railroad track. That's what you don't want to allow them to cross.
Right.
You want to maintain service to that area.
how's our sewer rates compared to yours?
We're a little bit high, we're higher, a little bit. And normally that's normal because cities with higher populations have a tendency to have lower rates. City with smaller populations have a tendency to have
Higher rates.
Higher rates. Hebron's higher than we are. West Licking, which is where all the development's going right now, is higher than anybody right now. And they're growing like crazy over
It's
there.
square miles of cover.
Yeah, that's the new Pataskala, and that's the new, help me, what's the big?
Etna.
Etna, and that's where they're building the great big Amazon building. So,
Prologis Park there.
my recommendation to council and the mayor is to try to move forward with plans to get water wastewater at least to the middle of this development here. Now, there's a lot of other areas that we could foresee possibly going. There's housing along this area here, which we could pick up. But our main concern right now is getting sewer to this area as easy and as cheap as possible. And to do that is to do it the way these plans are drawn.
What size sewer is it gonna be?
12-inch. 12-inch sewer.
How much flow will it?
More than what would satisfy that. Then it
You know
goes
how
from a
fast
12,
they're
it goes
gonna-
from a 12 to a 16.
How fast is it projected to develop?
It's set for a long time, but well, like I said, we are showing some interest in this area now. And years ago.
One of the
this is-
reasons why I would argue that it has not developed perhaps because lack of sanitary sewer service to the area. Certainly would have been a factor.
But this gentleman here is willing to, and I'm sure that he would have to put the cost to bore under the railroad and run it to Norris line. So he's willing to go that far. So if we put it in the middle of his property, he says he's willing to come to us
How often is that railroad line used?
daily.
Usually in the morning, judging by my ears.
I hear it sometimes late at night. Out here.
What do you think his development cost to do the boring he's suggesting he would do to hook up to the works? What do you think that cost him?
He was gonna talk to us about it. He was gonna look into it, talk about it.
I can
Is
tell you
it
this,
as hard-
first of all, he's gotta deal with the railroad company before he can even do that. So that may be one of the hurdles, but
I would
although,
suggest that-
it's done. I'm sorry, Joe.
What I was suggesting, if he's willing to put that kind of private capital into developing that property, we also consider investing that same capital into this extension.
He
Yes.
told you,
He is one?
Yeah.
Well, because he's not wanting us to run it all the way to the front door.
he's wanting us to just put it
Yeah.
in the middle of the property, and then
He'll
when this
take it.
develops, he'll go from there. Like if someone wants to develop along Thornwood, he will go to there. If someone wants to develop on this side, he will make sure that it's developed.
Okay.
So what you're
Did the
suggesting is.
councilman mean building a sewer to connect with it, or paying development fees for extending the sewer that far? That's been a discussion that.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Ask me that again. I couldn't hear.
Is he also willing to pay the city fees to extend the sewer that far?
No, not that I know. Did you hear him mention that?
No, but I would be hesitant to say that anything is off the table or that anything is necessarily on the table.
As soon as he taps that, as soon as any tap would come off of that, he would be having to pay a fee for whoever's developing. So,
He's gonna do his darndest to get somebody in there, if he's gonna get tapped with those fees on.
but
He's gonna have a fee with, he's gonna have a fee with York too.
Well, yeah.
Do we, right now, when you say develop it or something like that, do we know what type of development is gonna be a big user of, or contributor wastewater, or small? Because, someone, manufacturer goes in there and just puts a plant and they have one bathroom and you don't get any flow, I mean, you're not gonna make
I do
the
know-
amount
I
that
do
it costs
know
you to
one
put it
thing.
in,
I'm not gonna get into anything, what it is, or anything like
No,
that.
do not.
But I will say that it has to be kept clean. So, I anticipate a lot of wash down.
Okay.
in order
So
to.
flow will get flow out of it.
To keep the flow.
Yep.
So
So
that's all I can
they'll
tell you.
definitely need a pre-treatment plan.
They would need a pre-treatment, yes.
The other thing is that when North put the sewer line out there, you know, we had an agreement, just like we have on Morgan Avenue and places
Yeah.
like that, where we have combination northeast utilities or Cork line and stuff, that anyone in Heath that abutted that could tap in for the same fees that North does. But it's just for that property on that other side of the thing.
Right.
His property, he wouldn't be just necessarily allowed to go tap in that without our permission to
That's
go to North,
correct.
because he's not contiguous to it. So
Right.
we could say, no, you can't go in there, and there's no sewer, you have to put a septic system in or whatever, you don't wanna do that, then hook onto our sewer. So it's not like just, oh, I'm gonna go bore the thing, go tie into North, because he wouldn't be allowed to do that. His property isn't one of those
Right.
properties that was allowed to tie into it.
I'm hoping not.
You
I'm
know.
hoping that we wouldn't allow that.
You know,
But
so-
I wouldn't allow the sewer line to go down, Fay Avenue, but it did.
Anyway.
Fay Drive,
When
but
did
it
that
did.
occur? How long ago did that occur?
I was on council at the time, I can't remember when, or maybe when.
93?
Could have been around there.
You were on council.
well,
right?
I think it might have been later than that.
Later than that.
When-
I was
when you-
at the city of North though when it went
Whenever
down.
the ethanol plant, they were talking about putting the ethanol plant in, I don't know
Yeah.
when that was, that would have been about the time.
Maybe 95, something like that.
95?
Yeah, the whole idea was, they were just gonna put it down
That was later
that side of the
than
street,
that.
and I said, wait a minute, you're putting it in Heath. If you're gonna put it in Heath, we have to have an agreement, because the idea was that then something could build over there, we would get the tax revenue for, you know, people working or whatever there, but we wouldn't have to mess with putting the sewer all the way to it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, well, if you're just, or if, let's say they would have built houses in there, everything, we wouldn't have to worry about the sewer, and we'd have got all the income tax money, anyone that lived there, worked there, kind of a thing. So, the idea was if you're gonna use our right of way for it, but originally they're gonna do nothing, you know, everything. So we had an agreement that was drawn up between North and East, just like we have other places, you know. So if someone was there, because otherwise they could say, no, you can't tap into it, well then how are we gonna get sewer there? You know, it was one of those deals, I think, but.
So tonight, I mean, is this just information
It's
or are you
information
wanting-
for you, it's,
Okay.
it's also, it's information for everybody, so that they understand if there's something that we would wanna move forward with, and seem that we have the ability to move forward with, when I check on, you know, what money's left over from this year or anything like that, is, I think it needs to be put on, number one priority on the sewer side, that piece of ground needs to have access to sewer. And so it's an information thing, it's nothing that you can vote on now or anything like that, but you may eventually see something, on that where if we could get something worked out financially, and it also may mean, I mean, we may be able to take like a little bit of money that's in reserve, and we may be able to have to borrow a little bit of money. That money that we borrow may have to go on, you know, the cost of
Mayor?
sewer and homes and stuff.
In these discussions, have they projected how many new jobs might come to the area because of it?
I'm not gonna talk about that. I
I
don't know
just
that I know,
brought-
I don't know that I know a firm number, but I wouldn't talk about it if I did.
I just brought it up because you talk about money and community development. Sometimes they'll put money in a pot for small towns if there's good economic growth.
And where I find out about small town stuff is normally for us to get a lot of different grants and is you have to be under a population of 10,000.
You're right about there, aren't you?
And we're
We're
10-3.
so we don't qualify for a lot of that money that's available as far as.
We almost need like a cost estimate, preliminary cost estimate of what it might cost to do the new thing you're talking about, only going there and like that, because it's hard to say here, you know, it'd be nice
Right.
if it, you know.
I can tell you,
You know.
from what, I kind of sat down and did it myself, like, you know, how much it costs for
Yeah.
manhole, how much it costs per foot to get it to W. I'm writing about $320,000 to provide sewer to our area.
Part of the question of this, which John talked about, is this. Whether it's this particular potential development or not. We, and I would say probably, not to be overly critical of the decisions of our predecessors, but I would not have agreed to allow the city of Newark to run that sewer line down the middle of Heath Street. But, having done so, we have at our northwest border a 16-inch sewer line that belongs to another municipality. If we don't, for this or some other future development, decide to provide sewer access to that area of the city, this or some other future development will likely take advantage of that Newark sewer line being there. So the question becomes, are we comfortable with another municipality serving the northwest corner of our municipality's industrial land? And whatever future development might go on west beyond that, because once it's there, it's not going away, and we're not going there ever again. That's part of the question too. What this particular development is, or is not, or will be, or might be, or won't be. That's not the whole part of this equation. Part of this equation is, do we want Heath sanitary sewer to service the northwest corner of Heath or not? And it's a slippery slope. If we say no, and it starts to creep, it already, in my opinion, has creeped because it's there in the middle of a Heath City street. But if we allow it to continue, we'll reach a point of no return, and we'll lose that whole area for potential wastewater service.
Industrial development,
And
it's the
the-
most
and the
valuable
longer-
kind of development you can have.
The longer
Period.
we put off, the higher the cost might.
My only question
You know.
is, that developer is prohibited from going to that municipality without our permission. So, just how much taxpayer money should we be putting into this project when he's only got one choice? Technically. Am I off base on this?
This is my fault. I mean, if we're showing interest, why, and people, we've shown development along the Port Authority, we've got new industrial areas there.
Sure.
We're showing a lot of development taking place. Why not have that ground ready
Yeah.
for development? I mean, to postpone it, like, they were thinking in '93 that it should have been done. Here's a drawing, this is about $35,000 piece of engineering today, to have this engineered. It's setting on collecting dust. We need to move forward and not wait anymore, because I'm sure that exact question was probably brought up in '93.
So you're saying this developer doesn't really have any skin in the game for this?
He's got skin in the game. He's got to develop that whole area. We're just bringing
We're
it
only
to
gonna
his,
take it to the-
we're
to
bringing it
Blunt's
to his
point.
doorstep.
Kind of cost us $350,000.
$320,000. Yes.
But then he's got to do all the other tapping.
Anything that develops in this ground, he has to go to
So
it.
if
He has to
there's
run sewer lines.
6 or 7 industrial taps, what kind of a cost?
Depends on what size it is, but it could be very high.
What's typical for light industrial?
Light industrial, probably.
I'm just looking for a payback here, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how many lots, Jeff. I mean, if they do 20,000 square foot buildings, or they do 50,000 square foot buildings, I mean, I can't tell you. I can, maybe.
What's a 6-inch? Just a typical 6-inch? All of them would be 6 inches. That's the minimum.
But it goes from the size of the water line. It doesn't go to the size of,
And if you're looking for payback, I mean, it's been over 20 years that we've been looking for someone to go on that, so there might only be one connection in the next however many years, if that actually occurs, and
guess my
operations
question
we
is,
have
you know, I know we
Pardon
say,
me.
I know we say that we're not allowed to.
I'll get into that in just a little bit. Go ahead.
I know we say that we're, you know, we don't allow them to do that, but let me ask you this, if something real big's gonna go in there and Newark's already there, and we're way behind on the game, are we gonna, then what, are we gonna say, well, go ahead, Newark?
No.
Because we don't wanna turn down
I'm
tax
just playing
dollars?
the taxpayers devil's advocate, that's all.
The other
I
part
just
of
wanna,
it.
I just wanna hear the answer, that's all I wanna hear.
Go ahead, then I'll go.
Well, I'm just gonna say, site selectors, when they're looking to come to the area, they're looking at the readiness of the site.
Right.
And that may be why we're not getting somebody. And if we don't have that, then Mark sat at the table, I've sat at the table, and they're looking at the big package. And it's difficult to quantify payback for the taxpayers till we know what it is. But what it is now is nothing. And so, you know, the investment may bring that in, it may bring tax dollars, it may bring, you know, a lot of things.
Bring a
but,
lot of things, yeah.
yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, I'm very,
No, but I'm just
I'm
saying
very
that's,
pro-development,
you know,
I love economic
It's not
development.
just the developer and what
Yeah.
his skin in the game, it's the other people that are gonna come sit at that table and look to put their facility in that site, that they have to see that can bring what I
Sure.
need.
You get it.
There was a lot of things going on. at
Cletus,
that
Cletus,
time.
let's let Tim, Tim's been wanting to say something, go ahead.
It depends on whether you're trying to make money off your wastewater bill, if you're gonna do it that way, or you're gonna try to make the money off of the workers' income tax. You know what I mean?
Why not
Because
both?
you could have, well, it could be both. What I'm saying is a whole lot of money off of wastewater, unless you keep jacking the rates, and that's not the idea. The idea, I think, would be to get the rates lower, so you really don't make as much, but you pay for your operation. So depending on how much flow's coming in, I'd rather have them just have some bathrooms out there, but maybe 5,000 or a couple of thousand people working, okay, making the money that way, as opposed to having only 2 or 3 people working, and they're using some machines and automation and everything, but a whole lot of water's going down there for wastewater. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, and if that, now if it is a whole lot of wastewater, you're gonna make money off the wastewater part, okay? Then run the line to it, but if it's just gonna be a little bit of wastewater and you're gonna make hardly any money that way, it's all thing, let it go to North, let them treat it, especially if it's some kind of chemical or something that could destroy our plant. You know, just a little bit of the wrong bad stuff gets in and it knocks their plant out. I mean, I'd rather send it somewhere else than let them worry about that problem, and we'll just take the revenue off of everyone working there.
I'm not anxious
You know.
sending anything to Newark.
Maybe.
Yeah, I understand the point that you're making, Tim.
Yeah.
What I would say is this, and perhaps you're focusing a little bit too much on this one conversation, which was really nothing more than that, which is why I'm not going to get too much into it. When you have potential development, there's a whole lot of things that happen behind the scenes before things are no longer behind the scenes. We had one conversation about one potential employer. It's not for sure that they would locate there. It's not for sure that I think we necessarily want them to locate there. So don't, and that's why I tried to say what I said before. I would caution us from fixating too much on this one particular thing.
Okay.
I think you gotta look a little bit bigger than that.
Big picture.
We all know, years ago, the investment that was made, we've talked about it many times here, the investment that was made on expanding State Route 79 and putting the connector road over to Thornwood Drive. We all know the investment that's being made currently up on State Route 16 for a new interchange. We all know that the master plan for this whole thing is that existing Thornwood Drive is going to be expanded. So from the connector road to run straight into that new interchange. And that in doing that, it's going to make that whole western part of the city of Heath even more attractive for manufacturing and industrial development. The question is not, in my opinion, so much do we spend $300,000 or whatever, and that's John's coming up with those rough numbers, in order to service this one particular client. It's a philosophical question. Are we going to have that area of Heath served by Newark
No.
for sanitary sewer
No.
or by Heath? To me, that's the broad question. Whether we run it there for, this or not, I think we all hope that at some point in time something comes there. Are we going to allow that to be served for sewer by Newark, or is it going to be served by Heath? Tim, I think you're certainly right from the standpoint of income tax revenue being based on a number of jobs that are located, brings revenue into the city. But as it relates to trying to keep utility rates low, seeding an area, seeding the western part of Heath to Newark for sewer services will not in any way help us try to reduce our utility rates, or not even reduce, but keep from increasing our utility rates, because just as John said at the beginning of the conversation, a lot of what helps to determine what utility rates are is just the amount of volume that you have. If an employer has 500 jobs and all they have are 5 bathrooms in the place, that's fantastic from an income tax side. There are projects that happen in the state where the number of employees may be 50, but they may use 500,000 gallons of water a day, and a little less of that in wastewater. That would be a fantastic industry to have from a utility standpoint. And if we allow the continuing creep, then we will certainly not get a shot at either of those two possibilities. Correct me if I'm wrong. Newark's line is a 16-inch line, and does it dead end at Thornwood Drive, or does it go on past Thornwood?
They are actually now starting to. Are you guys familiar with? I guess it's West Main, and then once you continue out West Main, does that?
Yeah, it's called James Road or something.
Yeah.
Okay, if you go across to James, to the left, there's a little industrial park.
Yeah.
That is now serviced by Newark.
That's in Norton.
It's in Newark.
That would be the southwest corner of that intersection, Thornwood Drive
Yeah.
and James.
That's, when that came in, that line, Sandalwood, which that is out there, that loops and it goes out the end and it goes down here, or Fay. That's where that line goes to. But it was upsized so that it could do the Nelda Grove property, which was going to be the ethanol plant that never happened.
Okay.
And stuff. But
That's
yeah,
on the
there's
other
no
side
doubt
of
about it. And
Thornwood,
it's
on the
not-
west
it-
side
yeah.
of Thornwood.
And I don't think it's a 16-inch anything. It's either a 15 or something else, but I'm pretty sure it's not an even number. I think the water line may be a 12 or a 16 that went out there, but I think the sewer is not.
On was it?
On Fay, I think it's 15. I think it's an odd number, because I don't think they make 16-inch sewer
Oh.
pipe. I think it's 15. Or it could be bigger, it could be 18. I don't know, but it's either 15, 18, 12, something like that, but it's not a.
One thing someone brought up a question real quick on tap. Okay, a tap fee for the city of Heath for a 4-inch water line. Let's say in an industrial one, the 4-inch water line, it would produce, it would be $84,000. Half of that would go to sewer, half of that would go to water. So that kind of gives you an example. If it's an industrial area, if they're wanting a 4-inch size water tap, it would amount to about $84,000 income to us in one place for a 4-inch tap.
Joining 4 of those.
And then I can figure other sizes too, but that's just kind of in the middle of the road. I'm sorry.
Biggest thing of it is, this was looked at in 1993. I don't think, 2016, we should let it go another 20-some years before we act on the thing. I think that if it's there, and the people that, are looking at the property or whatever, and they know that line is.
Well, let's take this for an example. Why would Newark invest money in a 16-inch or 15 or whatever the size it is, running down Fay Drive? And I know, but they've gotten some sewer off of that. They've got that industrial park that just went in. None of that's going to go in if it's not there.
They were chasing nothing.
Well, Yeah.
Okay, I mean.
But
was a
it
huge
still
water.
didn't bear no fruit.
Right, but they speculated on.
I mean,
on
there
that.
was still, I don't know, but I've been through that area. I'm not saying it's a big heavy water user or anything, but it's still servicing a development in that area.
Yeah. We've done some things here in the past few years on the come, and by golly, it did. So,
Yeah.
and if we'd have stopped and waited, it'd be somewhere else.
You answered my question.
I know.
It takes 4 taps. It takes 4 industrial taps and a break-even analysis, a rough break-even analysis. So if we can gamble, if this becomes a mini international drive-like development, like what we've got down at James, then we've had a break-even analysis. It pays for itself. We have good consumption, good usage, and we have 200 taxpayers or more.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're staking your claim to an area that's manufactured.
And we're putting up a big fence with no more to it. Just there.
Right.
Yeah. Which is perfect.
Well, I think if you're looking for the feeling of council as to what they're gonna do,
Mhm.
I think I'm feeling positives around.
Thank you. That's the main thing. I just kind of wanted to put a feeler out there because you don't know till you ask, and ultimately it'll be your guys' decision. It will
Yep.
probably come to some type of vote, and we might as well get this on the table and get it out in front. It's been too long, and we'll move forward to see what we can do, see what can possibly be done.
Congratulate you getting the dust off of it.
Yeah.
He was pretty happy that he found it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
thought,
I'll
you
bet.
thought that there was something that had been done,
Yeah.
before, but
I called Jim Roberts, he goes, I don't know if we ever made plans out of that. He goes, I remember putting some lines on paper, but he goes, I don't remember, but this was pre-Jim Roberts.
yes.
Okay, so, he didn't really know
You
what
went
to
into
talk
the
about.
dust bin and found it.
We had a time there, Mark, our utility director back then, he didn't even know where he lived in. And we didn't
Yeah,
have
he
any
lived in
future
Newark.
look into no place. And on about that time was when we changed things around. And that's when, based on my information on Charlie Dean, because Charlie worked for the county, and a lot of these plans were made when he and, what's her name's husband, was utility director,
Wow.
And then when the other one come on board, things kind of dropped off. We had trouble out here, we had trouble up here where, Dad lives. And, they called me, I was away on vacation, and they called me and wanted to know if I would go along with a certain change. And the only way I would go if they would remove that utility director. And they did, and it changed things around, so that's why that I say this is a good deal.
Like I said, it's not, it might be this particular project, it might not be this particular project, it may be something we
That's
do
right.
all at once, it may be something we do in pieces. I think the bigger question is, do we wanna let Newark serve this area, or do we want to have Heath, serve this area?
Well, with
$320,000,
very different-
is that just construction costs, or does that include set aside for the
That's-
preparation of plans and specifications for bidding?
Well, most of that's been done, the plans and specifications and everything for bidding away.
Yeah, but that's
Okay,
20 years
but
ago, I'm
that
sure
is the
utilities
cost
have
of,
changed.
that's the cost of putting it in. That's me sitting down and figuring out there's so many manholes at a cost of $6,500 each. It's so much a foot, it's one bore underneath the road. That's me putting numbers together myself.
Rough estimate.
It's a rough estimate. That's, because I knew someone was gonna ask me how
Right.
much it would cost. Okay,
You know,
but,
Thank God, no lift stations.
yeah, no lift stations, it's crap, I mean, that's good, whenever you
Yeah.
put something in without a lift
Without a
station.
doubt.
Yeah,
So
I'm telling you. So, any other questions on wastewater?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to water. Water tank update, we now own 0.52 acres of land for our new water tank called Linville Water Tank. One, on the site is a 100-foot tower with an estimated worth of about $30,000 that we purchased from Windstream. The tower was inspected.
It's a radio tower, not a water tower.
Yes, that is a radio tower that exists on this property. The tower was inspected and is in excellent condition. We will paint the tower this spring at a cost of $2,900. Bring it up to snuff a little bit, make it look a little nicer. Engineering is progressing well, but an additional water loop is being engineered down State Route 13, about 0.75 miles outside of the city limits for a dual feed to that area.
Hey, John. And I don't know that we've had an opportunity to sit down and talk about this, so this is the first time I've ever said this. One of the higher priorities, I think, that we ought to put on this is cleaning up the ground there that we now own.
Okay.
And probably don't want to fence it until the construction is complete, but I think we ought to clean it up as much as we can. I think that would help the construction process, but also make the ground look nicer so that we're a good neighbor.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
We'll do that.
Okay.
Look pretty ugly right now.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It is rough.
But tower's in good shape.
The tower has a functional use
Absolutely.
for
Our
communications.
Well, for one, for our meter reading system now. It's high up. So that would, our existing, as well as if in the future, there are any additional customers either in or outside the city limits in that area, this tower location is high. So it'll be good for us.
We're not even so sure that we could rent a space on it. We don't know for sure yet, depending on, but there's a possibility that we could possibly rent a spot on it. I mean, I don't know yet, but the tower guy who inspected it mentioned that there are people that are looking for
Access to tower.
Because we own the tower.
Yes.
We can lease it out to cellular companies or
Lease a
whatever.
spot on the tower, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a
How
whole
about,
analysis that has to take place as part of that, as far as what the distance between the things would be and what they are, and I mean, but there's potential. Yeah.
And
Police
another thing is
communications?
we're not putting
Potentially.
we're not putting these antennas on top of our tank. They will be separate, and that's always a problem whenever you put a bunch of antennas on top of a tank. I've been out to seen certain tanks at other locations, but when they go to service those tanks or they have to do some kind of maintenance on them or something like that, all that stuff's gotta come off before they can even work on it or replace them. So,
I didn't realize we got the tower with it. Oh, they were taking
Over
the tower.
Greenbrier Drive, back in that development, there's still dead spots for radios in there. Like you don't know, but you get a cell phone in there, you can't hear over here.
Well, if our safety forces can be upgraded with communication improvements as well, that's what I'm interested in.
Recent main breaks, we had two main breaks, one on the corner of State Route 13 and Hopewell Drive on the 12th. It was one of the coolest days of the year, and
Across Hopewell from you, right on the edge of the road, that hole.
Yeah, I saw where the dirt and everything was down over the side, and I
started
saw
at 11 o'clock at night, and they didn't get done until 5 a.m.
And then I saw that they had a truck there to load some dirt into, get it out of there.
It was nasty,
Yeah.
because it was kind of one of the nights when the guys had to work.
Yeah.
It was pretty tough.
Nice warm evening, I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cold.
It was.
Yep.
Then we also had a valve repair on State Route 79 in front of the car wash up here.
That's what you guys were doing.
Cause of problem. So it was kind of one of these things where our shut-off valve for the service line malfunctioned.
So this was the corporation?
Yeah, it's not actually, the corporation's right on the main.
Okay.
It comes out so far, and then there's service valve.
That's what went bad.
Where your round boxes in
Yeah.
the yard. Well, that's what that is. So, anyway, it was leaking by, so we had to dig that up, go down to the service line and disconnect it out here, and then we're gonna tear that down. So,
Now,
This was the work site where the car almost Almost
very close to that.
fatality with the guy.
Well, close.
in the pole or something?
Yeah, they were working in the middle of 79 when that happened. This was off to the side of the road there in front of the car wash.
It wasn't in the middle of it.
No,
No,
no, this was off to the side.
Same side as the car.
Yeah.
You weren't in the road.
No.
Wasn't it right behind that for sale sign?
Actually, I think it was.
Looked like it.
Pretty close. Generator bids, we've received one generator bid. We're getting pricing on generators for the new Licking View pump station, booster station. And we're getting 3 bids from 3 different companies, and we've received one bid. And that bid was for $37,934. We are trying to make improvements to that pump station because the cost of updating Dodger pump station when we put the new tank out is gonna get very expensive. So we're making improvements to that pump station so that we have plenty of backup and plenty of way of getting water to the
We got plenty of room to make the updates. You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean?
In the new building here?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
The generator will actually be on the outside
Okay.
of that
Oh,
building.
okay.
And so forth, so.
John, let me ask you a question. I know that one of the reasons why we upgraded this Licking View pump station is to help us provide that dual feed to the WCLT tank. And that was also part of replacing Franklin Avenue line. That's right. Okay. With the new water tank, I know the long-term goal is to also have a water line on 13 that runs both north and south from where the tank would be, and where it runs south to then cross over there at Irvingwick and run down Irvingwick and
Right.
tie in that way. If we were to do that, would we then accomplish the same type of dual feed concept to the new tank
Yes.
that we did when we put this Licking View in for what will be now the old tank?
Right, yes.
Okay. But until we do that, we only have basically a single feed to what will be the new tank coming through the Licking View booster station.
When you go down State Route 13 to the new tank,
Uh-huh.
okay, we're engineering that now, that is being engineered.
Yeah.
And you'll have a dual feed to the tank from that booster station, from the Licking View booster station.
Okay.
One will go up Lindale Road
Okay.
to the new tank. The other will come up through, and it actually connects from Franklin, from Franklin, let me get this straight. Franklin Avenue to State Route 13, there's a line that goes through there.
Uh-huh.
It's actually in a field. And it goes through there, and that will go to State Route 13, and then 13 will be your other feed.
That's the one.
So you got Lindale
Okay.
and State Route 13. So if anything would happen to the main feed right now on Lindale, we can still feed through State Route 13.
That line.
But if anything happens to the Licking View booster station, then we can't get water either way, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Or if
I mean,
there's
if
a,
something
or if,
blow
or,
up,
or,
I
or
mean,
if,
yeah.
or if there's a
That's
main.
why we're putting a generator in, that's why because we're not gonna have as many backups, it wouldn't fail. I mean, everything's a duplex system there in that pump station, there's 2 pumps or 2.
Okay.
And Nick, you're familiar, I mean, all of our lift stations have 2 pumps.
And
I mean,
that's the
chances
capacity of
something
that
like
tank, if there was a main break
Mhm.
along that route, to where then it branches off into a feed.
And isolate.
There's enough water in that tank that we should be able, I mean, because that was one of the fears that you talked to me about, is that WCLT tank's gonna drain.
Yeah.
But we'll have enough capacity in the new tank to give time to fix the problem.
To isolate it and fix the problem.
The line
Okay.
that you're talking about is actually going to the WCLT tank, but it'll veer off and go to the.
We'll run it south
Yeah.
down 13.
Yeah.
You'll run it
That's
south
the one.
From where the
Yeah.
long narrow tank is at WCLT,
Yeah.
we'll go from there to about, what did I say?
0.75.
0.75
Yeah.
miles
Yeah.
to the new tank, down State Route
Yep.
13. our meter reading system, complete training on January 5th, 6th, and 7th. This is the automatic meter reading system. We now have 2,574 smart points installed. So we're getting automatic meter readings supposedly this month from that 2,574, and that will leave us 1,426 to complete. So we're moving along, but again, we're saving money from doing it ourselves and not having a company come in and get them all done at once. That was one reason why we were able to do this and hold costs down and get this thing done. Remember, I talked about just doing a portion of the city, and we saved enough money by us, our own employees, installing these smart points to be able to go ahead and put the whole city in. So that's what we're doing, and we're hoping John is set kind of by the end of March, everything will be wrapped up. So that's our goal. South Fork of Licking River line crossing, you know, I'm talking about running the water line for the dual feed, for them. That will go across the street, and that will be done by Precise Pouring. I met with them. They seem to think
That'd
that
be
it
going
can
under the
happen.
river too, but.
It's going under the river. I met
And a
with
big hill.
AEP today to talk to them about their easement, to utilize that easement going up to that new location. And the estimate that I got from Precise Pouring is within our allotment to have the job done. Now it's just a matter of verifying the easement and locating any lines or existing lines going up that easement area so that we can afford those.
By lines, you mean like?
There could be a gas line in there.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have to, we're in the process, that's our next step, to see what all is inside that easement. And what's funny is, I think it's a really old easement, and no one seems to know anything about it. So I don't know how this is all gonna pan out. But I did inform them that years ago, we had a 2-inch water line that ran up that easement years and years ago that they would use for emergencies if the pump station failed.
Is that the one that was above ground?
Yeah, we used to span the river.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then if you had a
And,
big log that went down, it tore it out. You gotta talk to Bob Hoskinson, because he's about the only one around that remembers repairing it. But they would actually repair that periodically because it would get destroyed by something.
High water.
It wasn't real high up, it was kind of.
Boy, that would have been a fun
And it goes
job.
from there, goes
weren't there
across.
things
and then-
cross beam like that, holding that sucker?
Well, I don't know.
I think so.
I
think
can't
there
even,
was.
that's way before my
Yeah.
time, so I don't know.
I think there was.
Don't look at me like it might.
So.
Well, it was.
Do you remember, Doug? Do you remember something
Yeah.
going across there?
Yep. Yep.
Wow. That'd be interesting to see how that comes out.
So, any questions on what we've discussed? And I'm done.
Do they have any questions, comments? 6:27, meeting adjourned.
John, thank you.
That would be bad.
You can,